NASA found mystery caves on the moon for shelter, but they could be alien bases, according to what ufologists are claiming. NASA recently announced about finding caves in the lunar pits that have comfortable temperatures for humans. A Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, the LRO spacecraft, discovered the pits that remain cool even during the day on the moon, maintaining a comfortable 63 degrees Fahrenheit of height, or 17 Celsius. How is it possible that space rock with a large range of temperature fluctuation has an ideal place for human beings to survive? Are these pits natural, or are they created artificially? On July 26, 2022, NASA published an article explaining that the pits and caves to which they may lead would make thermally stable sites for lunar exploration compared to areas at the moon's surface, which heat up to 260 degrees Fahrenheit during the day and cool to minus 280 Fahrenheit, that's minus 173 degrees Celsius at night. According to NASA, these pits were first discovered in 2009, which later helped scientists to explore caves that would be used as shelters. The pits or caves would also offer some protection from cosmic rays, solar radiation, and micrometeorites. This particular discovery is reminiscent of a classic science fiction novel by H.G. Wells entitled The First Man on the Moon, depicting lunar caves as suitable for hosting intelligent life forms. NASA further stated about 16 or more than 200 pits are probably collapsed lava tubes. Lunar pits are a fascinating feature on the lunar surface, and knowing that they create a stable thermal environment helps us paint a picture of these unique lunar features and the prospect of one day exploring them. The agency speculated that there might be a large cave because they found two of the most prominent pits have visible overhangs that clearly lead to caves or voids. Humans evolved during living in caves, and to caves we might return when we live on the moon, said David Page, co-author of the paper, who leads the Diviner Lunar Radiometer experiment aboard the LRO that made the temperature measurements used in the study. Scientists suggested that these lava tubes could be a safe place for astronauts to protect from cosmic rays and other harmful phenomena on the moon. Additionally, due to lower moon gravity, these caves would not collapse because of their own weight. China and Russia have been planning for a decade to install a base on the moon. Another mysterious trace found by LRO was the so-called footprints of the gods that appeared as if an unknown walk had taken place on the moon. And 40 years later, when NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter sent back high-resolution images of the moon in 2009, there appeared some footprints 30 miles away from Apollo 17 landing spot. NASA's lunar scientist Peter Schultz claimed they looked like strange footprints marching across the surface, and you wonder what caused them. And author William Byrnes went one step further. He said, it's not just that they are shaped like footprints, but it's a path. It's one foot, then the other. It's almost like somebody has been walking on the moon. They look like the kind of trails you would see in the desert, but the problem with these is they are not human size. Though scientists could not solve the mystery of these so-called footprints of the gods, quote unquote, they provided an alternative explanation for it. They believe that these linear chains of holes are the surface expressions of a buried tube of lava that had been carrying magma billions of years ago. And according to ufologists, most likely the reasons for the formation of caves are the development of lunar rocks. This means that contact with representatives of an unknown civilization, or at least a discovery of any artifacts, is quite possible. Are these caves alien bases? Perhaps the theory of lunar craters being the basis of extraterrestrials began when the first man landed on the moon. Hey Houston, I'm looking up north up towards Aristarchus now, and there's an area that is considerably more illuminated than the surrounding area. It seems to have a slight amount of fluorescence, Armstrong said. Aristarchus is the brightest crater on the face of the moon, but it is not clear what Armstrong actually saw. Some believe that the glow that Armstrong saw was evidence of high technology, perhaps a fusion reactor. Gordon Duff, a U.S. military veteran, claimed that the U.S. Congress discussed the possibility of bases on the moon after the Apollo mission. Official NASA records of the period observed strange glitter, mistiness, and darkness in the crater man was soon to explore. On the other hand, during the Barcelona Exopolitics Summit on July 25, 2009, former U.S. military retired Major Robert Dean released a set of amazing images, and it's the one on the top left here is one of them. And he explained that Apollo missions and what astronauts encountered unlike anyone before. He released to the public a set of fascinating images supposedly captured by astronauts of the Apollo 12 mission, including an image showing some mysterious spacecraft several hundreds of feet in diameter. The two images shown were taken by the Apollo astronauts when they were overflying the so-called Landsberg crater, and according to Mr. Dean, the astronauts in orbit above the moon were particularly fascinated by the Landsberg crater. They had been given a special designation to take pictures of Landsberg because the crater, which they named as the Landsberg, had things going on that were very anomalous. There was construction going on. There were gigantic facilities in the crater up there. So they were specifically delegated and assigned to photograph Landsberg to see if they could figure out what the hell was going on down there. And while they were looking at Landsberg, this object happened to express interest in them and flew by. Now this line is an artificial line that was drawn to show you and it gave the direction that this object was going. This is a good sized object flying past the Apollo lander, he said. And the interview, Dr. Ken Johnston, retired aerospace engineer, former active duty U.S. Marine, now known as NASA's whistleblower. He shared a lot about the Apollo mission and aliens with the New Indian Express. Do you believe that aliens exist? He said, yes, don't you? Your ancient history suggests that extraterrestrials came to our planet. Back in 1958, we unearthed proof that Eisenhower did meet the extraterrestrials. There is so much evidence not only to prove that they are aliens, but also that they have an impact on this planet. And the question put to him, how did you develop an interest in aliens in space? He said, back in those days, I would watch series like Buck Rogers and the 25th Century and Flash Gordon. I wanted to go to space. My father was a pilot, and I wanted to be one too. And then you went on to train Neil Armstrong. And he said, not just Neil Armstrong. We were a team of 4, and our job was to test the lunar mission module in the vacuum chambers to ensure that the systems were safe to be taken to space. In the process, we trained Neil, Buzz, Michael to land it on the moon. And the question put to him, was it your take on the moon landing? Was it fake or controversy? And he laughed. He said, we still have people who think that Earth is flat. Once a reporter told Buzz Aldrin that he didn't go to the moon, and he punched him, and even the latest satellite pictures show the same lunar footprints. So he says, people like me who've gotten into trouble with NASA have a different expansion for the acronym Never a Straight Answer. And this is on Hows and Whys by Vicky Verma. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.